Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And today, I'm going to be showing a character that I had shown in the Characters and Why I Like Them group on Facebook. So for those that saw this posting, yep, I'm finally getting around to this character. For those of you that don't follow me or Ziploc Gory or anybody else on Facebook, or weren't in that group when I showed that, allow me to introduce to you to an obscure DC character. I introduce to you the hero Airwave. So let's get into the origins, shall we? Now, there are three people who have taken the name Airwave. The first one was Larry Jordan, then Helen Jordan, then Harold Jordan. Larry first appeared in Detective Comics issue 60 in February of 1942. Helen appeared in DC Comics Presents issue number 40 in December of 1981. And Harold Hal Jordan appeared in Green Lantern Volume 2 issue 100 in January of 1978. However, as Maser, however you pronounce that, M-A-S-E-R, he was in Firestorm the Nuclear Man, issue 88 in August of 1989. Larry was created by Murray Boltinoff or Mart Weisinger, and Harris Levi, or aka Lee Harris. Helen was created by Bob Rozowski, I can't pronounce that, and Alex Savick. I wish that some of these comic book writers would actually summarize their names. Or like writers, artists, whatever. Some of their last names are really fucking hard to pronounce. And Harold Jordan was created by Denny O'Neil and the same dude as Helen. Larry was part of the All-Star Squadron, and Hal was a member of the Captains of Industry and the Justice Society. Helen was only a one or two shot character. She only wore the costume once or twice. Now here are their powers. Larry had antenna in his helmet and circuitry in his belt, which allowed him to eavesdrop on police band frequencies or interpret phone calls that traveled at the speed of electricity along phone lines on collapsible. He traveled at the speed of electricity along phone lines on collapsible skates built into his boots, and had magnetic energies that enabled him, used magnetic energies that enabled him to climb walls and actually grab guns out of bad guys' hands. Yeah, that was a terrible way to explain that, but still. Helen's helmet allowed her to change her molecular structure and could transform into energy and travel along television airwaves, and could also fly at super speed. Harold was able to ride and or transmute into energy and fly at super speed, and inherited and initially used his father's suit and helmet to better control his metahuman abilities. Yes, believe it or not, Harold is actually a metahuman, but I'll get into that in a second. Okay, now. Here we go. Law clerk Lawrence Larry Jordan had recently graduated from law school and was an intern at the Brooklyn District Attorney Office. Noticing the rise of crime, Jordan decided to become a costume crime fighter using technology, and used his interests in radio and electronics to create his equipment, including a cowl radio system that allowed him to listen to police reports, and special skates that allowed him to travel along telephone lines. He was accompanied by an outspoken parrot named Static, who occasionally aided him in battle and for narrative purposes gave him someone with whom he could converse in order to provide exposition to the reader. His superhero activities were noticeable enough for a fictionalized President FDR to request his participation in the All-Star Squadron. He would retire from his career as Airwave in 1948 and married Helen soon after. Their son Harold Hal was born as Jordan, continued his research into radio wave conversion. In DC Comics Presents issue 40, it's revealed that Larry was killed by a man he had once prosecuted as a district attorney. Joe Parsons was an escaped convict who took revenge by breaking into Jordan's home. Larry's costume malfunctioned as he tried to protect his family, and he died from a shotgun blast to the chest. Helen Jordan was Larry's wife. After his death, she donned the Airwave costume and brought the killer Joe Parsons to justice, but decided to never wear the suit again. When their son Harold entered high school, Helen sent the boy to live with his cousins in Dallas, as she slowly succumbed to mental illness. Where was I? Slowly succumbed to mental illness. Okay. At a young age, Harold was found to exhibit the power to transmute into energy, just as his father had modified his helmet and was preparing to train him to use his powers. Larry was killed. Eventually, Harold decided to follow in the footsteps of his father's career and took up the mantle of Airwave. When his character was introduced, it was also revealed that he was the cousin of Green Lantern Hal. Yes, that's right, he's the younger cousin of Hal Jordan, with whom he shares the same name. Airwave continued as a supporting character, although not in every issue of Green Lantern, and of his co-stars of the time, Black Canary and Green Arrow, showing young Hal how to become a superhero. In Green Lantern Volume 2, Issue 100, starring in Action Comics Issue 488, Hal was featured in the adventures of his own. For the next couple of years, he appeared in the secondary stories of Action Comics. The cover story almost always starred Superman, often alternating with the Atom. At some point, he became able to control his transmutation to energy without relying on his father's equipment. Airwave was then recruited by the Institute of Metahuman Studies to join a group of highly capitalist superheroes known as the Captains of Industry. In Firestorm issue number 88, he used the code name Masir to undergo extreme gene modification at the hands of Dr. Moon. This group was relatively short-lived, and he soon resumed using Airwave as his mocker. His next major appearance was in the JSA story arc, JSA issue 11 to 12, involving supervillain Cobra's plot to seize control of the world's media resources. When freed by the JSA, the seriously wounded hero destroys Cobra's satellites, which were targeted to annihilate many of Earth's cities. Later, Airwave joined the JSA Reserve in fight during the Imperiex War, JSA Our Worlds at War number 1, as well as against the triple threat of Mordru, Obsidian, and Eclipso. During the Infinite Crisis Company crossover storyline, Airwave joins a team of superheroes including Animal Man, Cyborg, and others to travel into space to help investigate a destructive spectral warp. Airwave almost instantly detects the cries for help coming from the ships being affected. In Infinite Crisis number 4, however, these cries overwhelm him, and he splits into millions of radio waves that fly off in different directions, thus being killed. However, he returned in Blackest Night, being reanimated as a Black Lantern, and he was one of the many Black Lanterns on the Black Lantern planet who came during the final battle at the end of the story arc. However, he used his powers to redirect all of Jon Stewart's distress calls to the radio of an old lady in Omaha, Nebraska. He would be destroyed by the combined efforts of the various Lantern Corps who had just arrived to battle the Black Lanterns. And that, guys, is pretty much it. That's the last bit of Airwave's origins. So, all in all, guys, that is it for Airwave. That's pretty much his origins, a very short-lived character who sadly has a great potential, and hopefully maybe he'll be brought back and actually be made of use, but then again, considering that we're talking about the New 52, that's not going to happen anytime soon, if not ever. But with that, guys, little bit of obscure hero-ness for you guys, as I always like to do. So with that, guys, that is Airwave, highly obscure, but I have to admit, very awesome hero. And as always, guys, stay tuned for the next Lesser Known.